So you share a space with a Sunday school, huh? Let's talk about that.
This episode of the Christian Principles Podcast is brought to you by the Herzog Foundation. And as always, the thoughts and opinions expressed within this episode are those of your hosts and not necessarily the Herzog Foundation. Welcome to the Christian Principles Podcast. I'm Matt George.
I'm Mark Zockel. Today we're going to talk about something which affects not all of us, but I imagine many of us in our history in Christian school have been in a building that at some point was multi-purpose. It wasn't just a standalone school. And most likely at some point in your history, either as a student or as a teacher or as an administrator, you were part of a place that shared spaces. And
Sharing space.
even then, like our schools share spaces in ways that other
Sure.
buildings do not. Other uh, more differently funded places have to worry about sharing, like we worry about sharing.
You know, there's just something about those schools that have their dedicated art rooms. It's just like, no, that's just not right. That's not fair. Art takes place in the kitchen.
I don't think you actually are a Christian school if you have an art space, let alone a football field. Okay, let's just be honest. Oh, what a blessing. No, but today we're going to talk about shared spaces, and we get that this could be somewhat limiting in so much that we do have brothers and sisters that listen to us that they don't share spaces like what we are talking about. But we are going to go ahead and go down this path because we remember the Mr. Tim Anger who talked to us about how some of the media that he would consume really felt like it was more for 3,000 member schools and less for his ministry. And we don't want to just be about the big boys.
Right.
We want to be there for everybody.
Yep. And
So,
we're part of that, everybody.
Yeah,
so it's a
we
lot
know that.
easier for us to talk about that.
Exactly. We know it. But again, I would suppose that most of our listeners are well aware of having to walk the tightrope between Sunday school teacher and the good ministry that the building was built for,
Right.
and the lesser ministry, which is the school ministry, which we would never call lesser ministry, but the ministry which the building may not have been built for, but is used for actively. So before we get there, we should probably stop and hear from our partners, the Herzog Foundation and GradeLink Student Information System.
That's a wonderful idea.
The Christian Principles Podcast is blessed to partner with the Herzog Foundation. The Herzog Foundation is actively advancing Christian education in the United States of America. The Stanley M. Herzog Charitable Foundation's mission is to catalyze and accelerate the development of quality Christian-centered K-12 education so that families and culture flourish. To this point, $14.6 million has been awarded to Christian schools. 1,300 plus schools and co-ops have been trained and started. 6,000 leaders have been trained. 49 states have been reached with the Herzog Foundation's message. Throughout the nation and for the nation, the Herzog Foundation has hosted Faith in Nation student forums, leadership development series, and many more opportunities for Christian education to grow and flourish in the United States of America. Take an opportunity to go to herzogfoundation.com to see what the Herzog Foundation can do for your school today.
When you need to reach families fast, GradeLink lets you send text or voice alerts right from your dashboard. It's perfect for weather closures, emergencies, or just last-minute reminders. Want quick, reliable communication? Check it out at cpp.gradelink.com. All right, so let's get to it. Let's talk about the wonderful opportunities we have to use our academic places in multi facets. Just so many ways that just give us the joys of, I don't know, I can't keep talking like this. I'm trying to build it up, and we just gotta get to that.
I hear you. It is, we need to find the joy, and we need to talk about the spiritual ramifications first. So let's go there.
Let's do it.
Missionally, what is the spiritual effect of partnering with a church or being able to see the spaces used by multiple ministries? Let's have the conversation as deacons first, or elders, or pastors first. What is the primary ministry?
Right.
Does Sunday school take precedence? Is that Sunday school teacher the one who we should name the room after? And it is the school teacher who is second tier.
Invading.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Is that how we see it? Or is it the one who uses it, let's say, sometimes 6 out of 7 days a week, whose room it is? And then it's the Sunday school teacher who does the invading. I mean, offer me some thoughts there as you have lived in the ministries you've lived in.
Yeah. So I have experienced that the sentiment, I guess that's the sentiment, I don't know, or at least the policy that it is the church first always.
Always.
That kind of mentality, church first always. And if kind of the bigger things would be, if the church is going to have a funeral, then the school is going to be affected by that. If the church is going to have a wedding, well, then it's going to be affected by that. So the school's got to do what it needs to do to avoid interference.
And that's an episode by itself. That's an episode by really
Sure.
the quality, the different ways in which that could be expressed or expected. And no, we should keep going, but there we go. Another idea.
Yeah. So I've definitely experienced that mentality. And even when it comes to using supplies, or this is going to ultimately get into a conversation of, do you operate off of one set of books financially, or are your ministries together, but yet the school operates independently financially? It in a setting where you are connected, I do know of those ministries where it's like the school cannot print in color anymore because we have gone so over budget. And so now the school is limited just because VBS printings or whatever else, and it's got to be the church first. And I say that not in a necessarily a negative sense. It's just that is the way some have operated, and opportunities like Bible studies or needing to have meetings, or like I was saying, other events that come up, to have to negotiate with another ministry is difficult. And so if your ministry has made the decision, if the church needs it, the church gets it, then you have to, as the school leader, you got to deal with it. Now,
roll with those punches. Yeah.
the other side of it would be where I don't know if I've ever seen a school first. I guess maybe the furthest you would get in that is, we understand as a ministry that has a Christian school, and we're investing in the Christian school, and we want to be supportive of the Christian school, that church has its lane when it comes to the building, and the school has its lane in the sense that Monday to Friday from 7:30 to 4 o'clock, the school has full use of the facilities. And if the church has a need, then we'll approach the school and say, hey, this is going on. It's really important. Is there any way we can work this out? If not, we understand the school has to happen, because schools are also under legal obligations where the church is not. So, so that tends to be, I think, maybe the only other option, other than the church has to bow down to the school while the school is operating. I don't know, but
I'd also point to something smaller, though. And really, we would probably see it more often in the smaller than in the larger um, obstacles faced, in the larger conflict of priorities. A Sunday school teacher, which is where we're going with this episode. Mostly, you share the classroom. You
Yeah.
are helping a teacher share a classroom with a Sunday school teacher, and the teacher comes back in on a Monday or a Thursday morning after a Wednesday midweek, whatever, or a youth group or whatever happens to meet in the room,
Yeah.
and the teacher's stuff, even though they have worked to put it away dutifully, the teacher's stuff has been unstuffed. It has been touched. It has been messed with.
Oof.
And there are some teachers that handle that exceptionally well, and they are bountiful and willing to, and there are others who, you get off my lawn. Do not touch with your grubby Sunday school hands my well-ordered desk and then we go into who purchased the stuff and why is it being touched. And, we probably many of us are having little flashbacks to those conversations. In my second installment, the church was not actively using that building for Sunday school. However, it used that building throughout the year for various, actually much larger events, including the entire summertime. And one of the questions I had coming in was, okay, so when it is the school office throughout the year, including the summertime, but the vacation Bible school or the different camp which is being run in the building at this time comes in and says, "Hey, we need some pens," or "Hey, we forgot to get paper," or "Hey, we forgot to." Yes, relatively speaking, slight things, small things, things that we should not begrudge the fellow ministry. At the same time, it wasn't offerings which purchased those supplies. It was tuition which purchased those supplies, which, like you said, goes back to the larger financial. Do you share books? Do you not share books? Is the church going to say, yeah, well, we built the building, so it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if you give us two staples, we're going to take those staples, and I'll take your stapler too while I'm at it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And not to say that our ministries actively speak to one another as though it's older brother and sister that they're annoyed with, or younger brother and sister they're annoyed with, but that's where I see this coming into play as much as, and even if not more so than, yes, the bigger questions you mentioned of which, and I set up of which one receives priority, which
Yeah.
one gets to be the one that is right in
Now,
the situation.
yeah, I would say here's maybe where this topic becomes slightly complicated. I know as an administrator, I can say to my teachers, "Hey, your room is going to be used on Sunday. So here's what we need you to do on Friday to make sure that it's ready." And since they are my employee, they do my bidding. Where
Benefit.
yes, and and wonderfully all the time. But then when it comes to Sunday schools, and I don't want to say this is true about every ministry, because maybe there are ministries out there that actually do pay their Sunday school teachers. I don't know, but I feel like Sunday school teachers are your volunteers, who are very kind-hearted to come in a little early and do something on a weekend, and to then, as a pastor or a Sunday school superintendent, who then comes in and says, "Hey, thank you so much for coming in and teaching these kids. It's really important," or teaching the adults, whatever it is. And we're just going to ask that you stay out of their business, uh, do your Sunday school thing, and then we actually need you to reset this room in this way, such and such a way, where the volunteers like, "What? I came in here to teach a lesson. That's all I'm planning on doing." So, and then you potentially lose a Sunday school teacher.
Or I've been here longer than you were, Mr. New Pastor,
Yeah.
and I've been teaching Sunday school to your mom. So
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I'll do what I please with my third grade Sunday school class, and you'll be thankful.
Right. And so, you maybe aren't, and granted, that makes, I feel we love Sunday school teachers. Sunday school teachers are all kind-hearted. They would never just jump to that conclusion. But it is a little harder to push back on, "Hey, we really need you to meet us halfway." It will always tend to be that the teacher, when they come in Monday morning, has a little bit of the expectation of, this isn't going to be as neatly put together as I set them up for on Sunday. And we as building leaders can come up with strategies to help, so it's not all on the teacher's shoulders.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
but that is I think the crux of this relationship, where you're paying an employee to meet an expected standard, whereas in the church you're doing the best you can to relay to volunteers what you would like to see them, so that we're being kind to each of our ministries.
Yeah. I would, as the school building leader, it is incumbent upon me to have my faculty and staff's back, not only just in front of parents, but in this situation against, and I say against, we understand, not against, but when it comes into a time of consternation between the teachers Sunday versus Monday through Saturday, I do need to be able to point to something that says our expectations of our teachers will have possibly a light cleanup duty following a Sunday school.
Yeah.
However, pastor or Sunday school superintendent or director of children's ministries who happens to oversee the school and the rest. I do need to talk to you about the way that Mr. Jones has left the Sunday school room again. And while my teacher is livid about this, I'm not allowing her or him to continue in that lividness. I am telling them that the volunteer is the volunteer and you are expected.
Yep.
But help me out.
But
Throw
help
me
me
a
out.
bone.
And that's
Like,
and
help
yeah,
me
that's
help
where I
them.
would definitely recommend. Yeah, I would recommend that the expectation that is given on the church side of things is not, I need you to just like do a full vacuuming and clean everything and make sure the desks are polished and but the way it was when it was presented to you Sunday morning, please leave it in that fashion when
Yes.
you're done with it.
And
That is a very low expectation. That should be an easy thing to meet each time.
but that is something that we should be able to discuss with ministry leaders. And I would say then expect the ministry leaders to have our back on. And that is something that's worth having discussion about. I think of, a church that has seen a new pastor come and go, or a church that has seen that secondary, not secondary pastor, but the assistant pastor, whoever happens to be that oversees or be responsible in a church school setting for overseeing the school, if that such things exist, like whatever the setup is, whoever is going to be, because the school administrator is not going to be responsible for that Sunday school leader necessarily. Whoever it is that would be overseeing that, I think having something in writing is appropriate.
Yeah.
And then it's we're not going to have non-members teaching Sunday school. That's not safe. That's not usually a legal thing to do. That's not something we want to do. So if we're not going to do that, something's written down somewhere. Well, write this down too. Encourage your church to write this down if it's not written down already. So that would be a very, as far as having this conversation about shared spaces with building leaders, with Christian school building leaders, I think it starts with a clear understanding of what the pastoral leadership team of the church, how they see that relationship, asking some of these very obvious questions that we've just asked. In the push comes the shove scenario, which one is in the wrong when you present them with the case study, and then listen to them and hear what they have to say, and then offer your insights and evidence what you have to say, and or just have that conversation. So a couple of suggestions: have the conversations, put something in writing, but then be, of course, prepared to have that conversation with the Mr. and Mrs. Smith who come in on Monday afternoon saying, you would not believe what I had to put up with when I walked into my classroom today, and how I can't even find my you name it because it was used. I found it in the trash can later on. Which there's another point to be made in that discussion about what is being left out. And that's probably even a little bit too specific for our conversations here tonight because some of those shared things would be so different. But again, if someone's new to the ministry, which probably happens quite a bit in our ministries, if somebody's new and they don't know what it looks like for their classroom to be used, or they're not expecting their classroom to be used, and they are leaving a little bit more out than you would suggest, perhaps that is something that in a new teacher orientation you do offer them an understanding of, because they need to be ready for it to be used.
Yeah. I would say as a teacher, when I had my classroom and my classroom would be used, not even necessarily just for Sunday, but anytime another teacher was going to come in and use my classroom, I will fully admit, like, there were markers that conveniently made it into my desk, and I maybe put other markers on the whiteboard for them to use because I didn't want to use them. There were those kind of things that teachers know their rooms, and they know and there's they're that should be expected, that if you don't want something to be used or gotten into, put it in an area that is very clear that this is just out of bounds. Don't don't go rooting through my stuff. But yeah, I would also contribute another aspect of this, which to me is a kind of a big deal. And I think about this often, mainly because I grew up in a ministry with shared spaces, and that my Sunday school classes were often the school classrooms. Now, we also had a bigger building that many times we had Sunday school classes that weren't used by the school at all, which was really nice. But I would always, if I was in charge of, or like for our current ministry right now, we'll sit down in a pastoral meeting, and just recently we kind of revamped our Sunday school and trying to decide where the different Sunday schools should be meeting. One of my big recommendations whenever I'm asked is, if we're looking for a place for, we'll just say, the first grade Sunday school class, my recommendation is to use any classroom except for the first grade classroom.
Absolutely.
I want them in a different environment than they're in the rest of the week. I don't want them comfortable where they're going and digging into their desk for something and then they take it home and then it's not there on Monday, or, they want to pull a prank on their best friend. Now, granted, a lot of times, and we've even dealt with this as the ministry recently, of if the room's not in use, we want the room locked, because it's easy for the kids to be walking to the auditorium and just think, oh, I'm going to go play with this really fun thing that I know is in my classroom right now. And then it gets broken or it gets lost. And we want to try to avoid that. Thinking when it comes to organizing where not just shared spaces, but even shared students, not necessarily all of our students will attend our church. But the ones that do attend both church and school, I want to make sure that they are able to really focus in on what Sunday school has to offer them and not be distracted by school. And I don't want to have to deal out school disciplinary issues on a
Yes.
Sunday.
Yes, absolutely. I don't really want to have to talk about school at all on Sunday unless I'm giving announcements about the school and how
Right.
God's been so good to us. Let me see here.
Anything, anything else? I feel like that covers a lot of it.
Teachers, students, equipment, placing of the school. All right, perhaps the last thing we can talk about, or maybe I'll bring up and you can react to as you like to. Okay. In the ministry, the first ministry I worked in, the pastoral staff was not enthused about any sort of over the weekend installments on the walls or on a table
Yeah.
in the hallway. And this is going past the classroom, but allow me a little bit of rain here to talk about this. I think it fits this podcast better than any of the other ones we've brought up or would have brought this up about concerning. So, so if there were book reports that were stapled to the wall throughout the week,
Mm-hmm.
there was the expectation they wouldn't be there on Sunday to be brought down. That has, interestingly, since in that building, that has lapsed somewhat. That's not the expectation anymore. But that was absolutely the expectation early on, and for much of the ministry, as I understood the history of it, to be. So that's something else to be aware of, and that again, that's a different flavor for every church. Some churches may celebrate the fact that they have this ministry and they maybe billboards, that's the wrong way of saying it. They have bulletin boards in the hallway that those are the spaces they expect to see beautiful artwork or A+ papers and things like that from the classroom. But really the rest of the walls need to be there for the decor, which the facility decides to be appropriate, and not just anybody's stuff posted anywhere or on a table. They don't want to see projects on a table or things like that. There is a conversation to be had there. Again, probably just in a staff meeting, if the head of school happens to be on the pastoral staff, or at the very least, if that building leader happens to be reporting to a pastor who would then have that conversation. Because we do not want to set anybody's teeth on edge unnecessarily. There will already be enough obstacles to overcome simply because of the shared space. Try to think through items like that more specifically, more quickly. You mentioned the kitchen earlier. We didn't talk about the kitchen. That's a big. I
Yeah.
mean, how many cabinets can fit into a kitchen clearly marked as this is school material
Stay out.
versus what the deaconess closet has. This is the deaconess closet versus this is the seniors pizza stacks. Like,
Hmm.
there's only so many places for those cabinets to be in that shared kitchen, and there's only so many keys that can unlock so many locks.
Right. Right.
Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I also went from a we don't want, I'll be extreme. On a Sunday, we don't want to know that a school exists here.
Yes.
From that sentiment to what I've always deeply encouraged, which is maybe why you've seen a bit of a lapse
Wait a
in
minute.
that recently, is especially if you are of the ministry where the church is first, but also we're going to equally and as strongly say that the school is a ministry of the church, then why would we want to hide a ministry? You want to make sure that that ministry is publicized. And the best opportunity is, yeah, here's what the kids are working on right now. Here's what they're learning in Bible class. Here's what they're learning in art. Here's what they're learning. And just to be able to walk down the hall and see, wow. And maybe some of these church members who don't have any of the kids in the school, grandparents, they get to see things, and parents, of course, know what's going on. But those that don't have kids in the school can, be thinking and praying for those kids, for those teachers, and be reminded that there is a ministry that takes place here every single day that we need to be in prayer for, that we need to be actively supporting. I think that is a vital aspect. Now, granted, you can do it tastefully. You can do it, in a not so sloppy way, just let's just give kids finger paints and have them go crazy on the walls. Like, that's probably not the best idea. It'd be really cool, but I don't think it'd be the best idea. But
You know what
yeah,
I
like
hear?
make it purposeful.
I hear often from those church members walking by, cursive. They're teaching cursive here.
Yeah.
Like, how we a penny for every time I heard that, or something like, oh, look at that handwriting. That handwriting is wonderful, and they're so young. I don't see that at my so and so school. I don't see that because many of our churches have people that teach elsewhere or they work elsewhere, and they're interacting with students elsewhere, and
Or
yeah,
they're
that
sending
is
their students are enrolled somewhere else. And that was always a struggle for me growing up, in that we had kids coming to our church that just, it was no way are they going to this school. Like, why are you coming to our church ministry? And like, what do you think the school is that, but I don't know how much of the school they really got to see. And if they had more opportunity to do that and interact with it, then maybe they would have considered sending their kids to the school. Not that it's a publicity for marketing reasons, but there is that opportunity where they are interacting with the ministry that they are supporting as a member of the church, or at least an attendee of the church, and it gives consideration to the school's actually doing something really well that maybe I should pay closer attention to it.
I think I've thought about several different ways we could keep this conversation rolling, but it's actually time for us to stop this conversation now,
It is time.
which is crazy. Well, we were wondering if we've done this too often, and I think you said it before we got started. We find a way to fill the time, even when we think maybe we aren't going to have it to talk about. No, there's always something else to say. We didn't even talk about like the hard
Yeah.
installations on the walls, or the general color
Right.
scheme that the church has that might be
The
different than the school, or the logo and maybe
the
the refashioned
the
logo they want to
baptis
put somewhere.
the baptismal that gets installed in the classroom.
All of
That
that.
would be fun.
Well, let's move to our Christian Administrator Spotlight. And the Christian Administrator Spotlight for this episode is going out to Jake Messer. Mr. Jake Messer there at Emmanuel
There you
Christian
go.
School in Hagerstown, Maryland, a part of Emmanuel Baptist Church. Jake, Matt's going to pray for you now.
Father, thank you so much for Jake and the leadership he has there at Emmanuel as the principal. I just pray that you would guide him, encourage him as he interacts with this relationship of church and school. And what a wonderful ministry opportunity to have a church family that is supportive of of seeing students and families ministered to day in and day out. And I just pray that you give Jake the opportunity to continue to grow that school, that whatever obstacles or struggles they may be coming into, Lord, that they would find answers, solutions to those problems, that they would see growth as they're wrapping up their year, just that things would go well. I pray that you would encourage him in his walk with you, just bring him valuable resources, support through his faculty, staff, pastoral ministry, or maybe other schools in his area, or perhaps other associations. Lord, whatever it may be, that he would be pleasing you and bringing you honor and glory in all things. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Man, what a blessing to be able to pray for Jake. But everybody wants you to stop what you're doing right now. Stop what you're doing. If you're driving, slam on the brake, the side of the road, stop what you're doing. You need to take your favorite episode from the last 10 you've heard or so, and you need to share it. Please take an episode. Do us a favor. Take an episode. Share it on your social media. That's all we're asking of you. Just take one of our episodes that you have found to be the most meaningful recently, and please share it with your peers and just your family or friends that you have on social media. That would be such a blessing to us. And perhaps that would help just a few more ears listen to the Christian Principles podcast. Beyond that, thanks for going with us today.
We want to thank you for listening. We're honored that you spend this time with us each week. Our heart is to bring you practical conversations and resources that really serve you as a Christian school leader. One of the best ways you can help us spread the word is by leaving us a review and sharing the podcast with other Christian school principals you're connected with. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Join the conversation and share any posts that resonate with you. Every share makes a difference in helping more leaders find encouragement and practical tools. And remember, the podcast is just one way we help. We also love serving schools through speaking and workshops. Our keynotes and sessions are designed to give you actionable strategies you can take back to your team and implement right away. If you'd like more details, just send us an email at info@christianprinciplespodcast.com. We'd love to connect. Until next time, thanks for joining us on the Christian Principles Podcast.